But what I think is interesting here is that we hear more in this chapter about how handsome and elegant he is than we
Mm-hmm.
have before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like she's appreciating the physical beauty now more that she understands his good character. I think we have to understand that Austen is not saying that it's wrong to admire someone for being beautiful or handsome. I mean, that you've got to see past that and the
Mm-hmm.
superficial judgment. You shouldn't think someone's a good person just because they're handsome or because they're pretty. But Elizabeth has never been that silly. I mean, she knew he was good looking all along, but he was a terrible person. What I think is interesting here, though, is she's looking at the picture and she's thinking about what a good person he is.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, someone can be a good person and not be as good looking, but it's almost like those two things are harmonizing for her. Like he's more handsome because of the character that he has, and
Right.
I think that's interesting. In this chapter, just how much is said about his appearance, and not in a superficial way, but just in an appropriate, that men and women admire each other's appearance, and that's a good thing. I think it can so easily be twisted to something bad, or it can be lustful, but I think this kind of shows you just the good of it, that they like the way the other person looks. They also like who the other person is. They don't separate those two things.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong, first of all, with being physically attracted to somebody that you are romantically involved with. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me being physically attracted to my wife and her being physically attracted to me. That is that should be there. You know what I mean? That's a necessary aspect of a real romantic relationship. So there's nothing wrong with finding attractiveness. I did find this kind of humorous, though. Now, Evie, I'm not a woman, but I have observed women, and you tell me if I'm wrong here. This is my observation, and this is just based on my observation of women. There's like if I see a pretty girl, okay, I'm trying to think, it's some celebrity or some such, okay. Maybe I can't stand that pretty celebrity's attitude. I don't like her politics or whatever, or she's just real grumpy and witchy or whatever. But I can step back and say, I don't want to be around her, but that's a good looking woman. I can almost like separate the two. She's physically very nice to look at, but personality wise, it just wouldn't work out. Women, and I'm going on my wife here. There's some guy, some guy who could be almost objectively handsome, but be a complete jerk, and she will say that's an ugly man. And I'm saying, well, he's not ugly. I mean, he's a handsome guy. Now you might not like his. She's like, no, I have zero attraction to that guy at all. He's just an ugly guy, and I hate everything about him. And I think Elizabeth here.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on here.
To do that, she sees Darcy's character, and she starts to now be more physically attracted to him. And I think women do that. I'm not saying men don't do that. I just think women do that maybe a little on a deeper level than men do.
And it's a good thing to do. It's because women are more perceptive than men are.
When it comes to physical stuff, yeah, a guy, pretty lady. That's what's going on in a guy.
I mean, I'm joking, but I think that there's something to that. Yeah,
a man can be bewitched by a woman's looks, and he can put up with a lot of stuff because she's pretty. She's pretty. But if a woman won't be with a guy just because he's handsome, if he's a bum, if he's a jerk or whatever, and I don't mean jerk in the bad boy kind of way, I mean just a flat out jerk, and then he's ugly, I don't have anything to do with him. And on the flip side of that, Elizabeth says, this is a good man, and I used to not think that he was really that attractive, but now I'm starting to feel a little sense of physical attraction for this guy. And I think that's a total woman thing, right?
I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting point, but I think you've explained why this is happening in this particular chapter. Because I think Austen is getting at something, maybe not all women, but I think it's a tendency of women. I mean, I've read so much Austen that a lot.
I'm speaking in a broad, I'm painting with a broad brush here.
But I think it is a general tendency. Yeah. She has another character in Emma, Jane Fairfax, who's talking about this man and says, well, I know he's generally thought to be plain, but where I have regard for a person, I always think they're well looking. And I think a lot of women feel that way. Like if it's a guy they like, then they think he's cute. If it's a guy they don't admire, they like. I think you're right. I think, well, a lot of women are inclined to think, well, he's ugly. I know he treated people bad. He looks ugly to me. And I've noticed that with some people, where at first you think they're handsome, and then you find out something that makes you think their character isn't good, and then then like, well, his teeth, his teeth look like vampire teeth. They just they start to look less appealing to you. I mean, not even like an attractive way. They don't look as pretty. And right. I think that's very interesting how that happens. But I hadn't even thought about that. But like I said, that was just an observation in this chapter, that she's looking at the painting of him. She looks at the big painting of him. She's thinking about his character. But that just goes to show the insight that I think Austen has into the way men and women think. I think that's exactly what's going on here. She's finally sort of free to see him as being a handsome man, because she has gotten past her preconceptions about him.
And she's able to take him in as a whole.
That's right. Exactly.
As a whole individual. More layers
yes.
of who he is as a man are now starting to kind of come together. And like you said,
right.
she is a woman of integrity, and she's not going to compromise to end up with some bum,
right.
And so she sees that Wickham is a good man. I'm sorry, that Darcy is a good man, and Wickham is not, but Darcy is, and that makes him more appealing to her. And in a general sense, but like you said, now in that physical sense too. Oh, well, these feelings weren't necessarily here before, but based on my new information here, I never noticed how handsome he was. He has a very nice figure, that sort of thing.
Right.
And so you can tell that he's the truth has really made an impact on Elizabeth. And I like how it says she wondered what he was thinking, and she cares about his mind and his thoughts, not his estate. That flutter of temptation. Oh, this estate is nice, but I'm going to put that out of this all could have been mine, but I'm going to put that out of my mind. But now, things have changed, and she wants to know what's going on in here with the man Darcy, who she is now starting to have respect and affection for, and what manner he thought of her, and what does he think of her, and whether, in spite of everything, did she still mean something to him? She's starting to think that way too, and she's starting to feel something for him. And that whole typical, well, does he like me? Did I blow my chance here? What she's, and I like that Austen put it, whether it was pain or pleasure, Elizabeth knew not which, but she did feel something, and something beyond just reproach, for Darcy. And she does feel something, whether it's pain, like regret, I missed out on this, I had my chance and I blew it, or I really have affection for this guy. He's a good guy, somebody I could really see this is the kind of guy that I could see myself with. And she's starting to actually, this is her genuine affection is starting to bloom for Darcy here.
Yes.